Good morning, world. Saturday, the 3rd of May. And we're just sitting around trying to figure out what we're going to talk about. Of course, last night what they call the loophole in the tariffs expired, and you're going to see a lot of price increases in the next week, especially on automobiles. They're going to be very, very expensive in the United States. We don't, even when we were in the United States, we never didn't go out and buy new cars because they have a tendency to be very, very overpriced. You know, when you can get a used car in good shape, or you can go out and like I kept my my niece gave me her Nissan Altima. I forget the year. I think it was like 2001. And anyhow, I put 60,000 miles on that car without replacing the engine and changing the oil every once in a while. That was it. I ran into a problem. You know, I got in an accident. Some goofy lady backed into the side of me while I was at the Walmart parking lot and just tore up the door and everything. That was going to cost me they actually declared the car totaled. They wouldn't fix it, so I had a problem with that. So anyhow, taking that into consideration, you know, I like older cars. I had a Kia after that. I had a Kia, it looked like a little Jeep. And that was an old one. That was a 2001, I think. And that same thing. I'm sitting at a stoplight on the left-hand lane, and I go to take off. A kid in the right-hand lane decides to make a left-hand turn through my passenger door. Caught the right front fender, but the axle bent everything. They tried to total that, too. They wouldn't fix it. So that's the disadvantage of owning an older car, but I think it's worth it, you know. So anyhow, tariffs don't really bother me. Then there was the impeachment process that they're talking about. That's a mistake. You don't show your cards. You don't give him. Now he wants these two guys that are to be Democrats to be thrown out of Congress, and he might be able to do that. But you have to. You have to have your evidence. You have to have the people behind you. You have to have the ability to do it, and he doesn't have it. You know, nobody wants an impeachment. I don't know why they don't want it, but the Democrats don't want to try it because it's going to fail, and that's going to cause problems in the future when he does do something wrong and when they have the majority and the ability to impeach him. Nobody likes impeachment. You know, nobody wants to see a president forced to resign like Nixon. That didn't cause a lot of chaos. Only when the vice president that was chosen was convicted too. So that's just, you know. The Pope is one we're going to talk about a little bit today. And you know, they're electing a new Pope. And my favorite, there's movies been about popes and cardinals and this, that, and the other thing over the years. And my favorite movie's a real old one. You never see it around anymore. It was starred Anthony Quinn, and it was Shoes of the Fisherman. And in my opinion, that's what we need. That his character is what the Catholic Church needs as a pope. Now, I'm not religious, okay? So I'm discussing this like it was a political election or something like that. You know, what I believe would be a good thing. And I know people aren't really interested in that. But, you know, I don't think that the Catholic society in this country is that worried about it. But anyhow, so we're going to talk a little bit about that, and then we're going to go over to something else that I considered. The Pope is Pope Francis was an all right guy. You know, he had his ups and downs. I disagree with some of the things he did and didn't do. And I'm not a Catholic. I'm not a Catholic, but I have the right as an observer to formulate an opinion. And I'm an observer of the human point of view. And my point of view about this whole thing is that I think he was on the right track. If you want the Catholic Church to stay viable and you want the Catholic Church to grow, reform is necessary. The problem is that the rules are so strict that when you change them, it's like, you can't do that. You know, like for years the Catholic Church had to be said in Latin. And Latin's not a language that people study anymore. So they changed it to English, or the native language I think they said they could use. Now there's a move to go back to Latin. You can go back to Latin. Nobody's going to know what you're talking about. I think part of the church's problems during the Mass is when they do the homily, or when they stand up there and they do their, I guess it's the homily, I don't know. I don't know exactly what you call it, but he stands up in the pulpit and he does like a personal message to you all. Two things that these people don't realize. One is that these people in the church are half asleep most of the time. They're not paying a lot of attention. This is a habit. This isn't a calling. And you stand up there for 20 minutes talking, nobody's paying attention to you. You know, especially the people that are sitting in the back, because they're sitting in the back for a reason, all right? The act of confession, and you're forgiven your sins and you can go about your life, especially if you just killed your wife or something like that, that's kind of not something I agree with, you know. But this is the way it is, and I don't think that's, you know, going to last much longer. But the church is, you know, it's in a battle right now for going back to the old ways, or continuing to move forward with Francis' reforms. And I think if they want to, and the way it's written, and the way the articles are talking about it, is if they go back, it's probably the kiss of death for the Catholic Church. Because that group of old people are dying off that want that, you know, and the young people aren't looking for that, you know. You get Muslims, young people turning to Muslims. First of all, they like the order, they like the strictness, but they also like the fact that, you know, you can pretty much, there's different levels of that, you know, religion, and some of them you can just, you know, go about your life and live your life. But it's more like the young people that get involved in that. There's two kinds of people there. You have the ones that are actually honestly looking for some sort of religion to gravitate to, and you have the others that are there for payback about something else. You know, it's more of about anti-American or something like that, or whatever. You know, they think they're persecuted. It's like a cult to those people. So, my opinion is of the Catholic Church is that, yeah, it does need to be reformed, but it has to be done over certain things that, you know, don't make a lot of sense to somebody else, you know. But you have to understand that the religion is guided by people that claim to have spoken to God, and He is the one true God. Now, in the Catholic Church, something that's not brought up a lot of times is you have the commandment that thou shalt not worship false idols. Well, they worship a statue of Jesus Christ on the cross. Now, it's my understanding He is the Son of God, which would be Jehovah, I think, if I'm right. Maybe I'm not, I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a big religious person, but to me it seems that you're not worshiping God. You're worshiping the Son of God. And like I'm saying, well, did God die? I didn't think gods could die. You know? I don't understand this whole thing, and that why is Jesus in charge of heaven and earth and everything else, and God's wandering around up there, what, playing golf with the people, Musk and Trump? I don't understand that, you know. Somebody has to sit down and try to explain that to me someday. But that's my opinion is that it's, the Pope is in a position of benevolence, and he has the right to be able to do things to solve problems in the world, which is what Shoes of the Fisherman is all about. There's the threat of war from North Korea because they're starving, and the Pope takes the crowns, which have enough money in it to pay off the world debt, and he gives it a crown, or all of them. I'm not sure how that, because it's been a long time since I've seen the movie, but he gives the crown jewels supposedly to North Korea to pay for food and buys food, and thereby stops World War III from happening. Now that's a pope to me. Not somebody that chooses sides, because he didn't choose a side. He chose peace over everything else. And that's the benevolence that you don't see anymore, in the Catholic Church, They're kind of, and Trump goes along with the reform method of the Catholic Church, not the reform method, but the old school, where women can't do anything in the church, married people can't do anything in the church, can't be a priest, who's a priest and who isn't. I don't go along with that. If you have the belief inside you, I don't see anything wrong with it. You don't see the Protestants that are married and whatnot getting shot down. You don't see the local preacher getting, lightning struck or anything like that. So I have an idea that, if there is a God, he's pretty liberal. And he's looking for some, help there. Just like, a Muslim, you read the Quran is similar to the Bible. And there's two different ways of following that, two couple different ways of interpreting that. The Bible's pretty much the same way. You can interpret certain sayings differently. It depends on, you don't know what context they were written in. You don't know what they meant at the time they were written. That's the problem with all that. That's the problem with believing something that's thousands of years old. You don't, that was then, this is now. Life has changed. The world isn't backward anymore. It's a modern society, and you have to be able to deal with that. So I understand that if people are sitting around saying we want the old ways back, well, we went to, like I said, I went to a funeral the other night. It was a Catholic funeral, and my friends that were there, not including the parents of the child, but the other relatives in the family, were there saying, what the hell was he talking about? What was he doing? He turns the lights out, he goes sits in a pew and ringing the, nobody knows what the hell he was talking about, because it's not, he did something that was entirely not normal. Now, I, not understanding the language, could not discern whether this was a conservative attitude or if this was just something liberal, or he just forgot what he was doing, So, and you have to figure that everything was clear liquid. That everything, when you did the communion, it's supposed to be red wine. It was white wine, clear white wine. Was it water or vodka? I haven't got the faintest idea. And I don't know. I think they're probably priests that don't drink, and they can't do they have a whatever for the communion. They can use water. I know they can use grape juice, but they don't want to do it. So that's my deal. The Pope is being elected on the 7th, the conclave convenes. They shut the Sistine Chapel doors. Everybody gets together. That's when you see that this is that how political that religion is. How ridiculously political it is. And all the game playing that's goes on and whatnot. I don't know. That's why that's another reason why I don't like religions, because they're dishonest to a certain degree. I believe there's a God. Don't know what he is. He could be a Jew. He could be a Protestant. He could be a witch doctor. I don't know. Anyhow, that's it for me today. Remember to hit the subscribe button, and let's make some comments or something about me, and we'll talk again. By the way, I'm not going to be here tomorrow. I'm not doing a Sunday because there's just really nothing to talk about until football season starts. So not doing Sunday. I'll see you Monday.